I just wanted to do a quick video review of Werewolf the Apocalypse Earthblood. I was going to do a big fancy review and use my VR chat wolf avatar and kind of have some fun with it. But this game was just so bad, it's not really worth wasting my time on. If you guys want a quick opinion on the game, don't buy it. It's not worth it. Maybe when it's a $10 game on sale, sure, maybe go for it then. But the way it is, it's just not worth it. So let me go over with you real quick on why you should not buy this game. So first thing, you open up the game and you look at the loading screen. So when you start up the game, you're greeted with this menu. It looks pretty good as far as like the werewolf model goes, I think. Most games and videos I've seen, the werewolf just looks like some weird mutated monstrosity. This one, the head actually looks like a real wolf. I like it a lot. The problem I have is it looks like somebody took an axe to the werewolf's junk. Like, I don't know what they were thinking, but that just looks really weird. Anyway, not too obsessed with that. Moving on. So the next problem I had is I usually use Shadowplay, NVIDIA Shadowplay, to record all my footage. This game seems to have a problem with NVIDIA Shadowplay when you're using full screen and HDR. If you try to record and then play it back on a monitor or TV that is not HDR, it looks absolutely horrible. So I recorded all of this in OBS, and honestly, I don't like it as much. It's funny because after I was done, actually, I'm doing this recording, and I wanted to show a comparison of the two, but apparently after editing the software, you can't see any difference anyway. But needless to say, NVIDIA Shadowplay, I've played the first level over 5 times trying to capture footage before I finally just gave up and used OBS. Okay, so far, most of the stuff I've complained about is just kind of nitpicking or something that you wouldn't, the average person wouldn't notice. So once you, though, get into the game, this is one of the first things you see within the first couple of minutes of the game, and this is what really put me off and just kind of set the pace for this whole game for me.
I've recently gained access to the system that controls all the on-site oil pumps. That's our target.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm bored out of my mind. There's nothing to do here, and it's wet and miserable.
So once I saw this, it kind of set the mood for me for the whole game. These horrible or lack of facial animations. The characters were extremely stiff. The voice acting was just kind of meh. It kind of kills the immersion to me. It kills the story. I'm really big into story. I love story-driven stuff. And this was instantly killed from the beginning. Like, this looked like something from the early 2000s. Like, literally, Half-Life 2 looked better than this. And going on, on that path, like, the graphics themselves, they don't look that good either. There are some cutscenes that straight up look like cutscenes out from a PlayStation 1 game. It is just downright pathetic what they did. My next issue was the camera. So most of this game is set in a real tight environment, so I kind of understand why the camera is pulled in so tight. The problem is you cannot choose to pull the camera out so you can see a little better. Now, I can expect this from a console game, but not from a PC game. This is just ridiculous. Like, I was literally having issues playing this game. Like, it was messing with my head. I was having such a hard time with these camera angles and not being able to pull the camera out.
Yeah, what could have caused it?
I don't care. Just want it fixed and fast. Some big shot just arrived on site. Folks upstairs want everything to be
Hello?
Since I'm showing stealth, I might as well talk about how bad it can be at times. It's incredibly inconsistent. Sometimes you can be right next to an enemy and they won't see you. Other times you're completely around a corner and they know you're there. So for the first few levels, you do have to use stealth at times, and if you get detected, it is game over. This was really frustrating for me when I first saw it. It reminded me of the early Splinter Cell games where you get detected and it's just game over. Luckily, later in the game, this is not the case, and you do get to go full out, just murder everybody. But yeah, this is an example of how that works. Overall, the game can be very cheap at times. I've already expressed my frustration with the camera, how it can be pulled too far in my opinion, and should have an option to be pulled out. Later in the game, you will get dogpiled by enemies. You'll get knocked around, you'll get hit and stun locked, where basically you can't do anything, and you'll get knocked into a corner or something where you can't see what's going on, and you're just pretty much dead. There's nothing you can do about it. It's cheap little things like that in a game that really frustrate me. Things like this also. Another major problem I have with this game is its just lack of depth in the story. If you go over and look at their Wikipedia, it says Werewolf the Apocalypse is a role-playing game from the classic World of Darkness line by White Wolf Publishing. Other related products include the collectible card game named Rage and several novels, including one series. This has been going back since 1992. There's even comics. Like, I have a comic from back in the early 2000s. It's a little beat up. But yeah, it's been around forever. And what we get is a generic story, characters that are just bland and cookie cutter, have no emotion, no character development. It's just bad. You would think that a series with this much lore and background could give us a better story than this generic, eco-terrorists, going after this big bad evil corporation. But no, this is what we got. A good example of this is the very beginning of the game. You're told that there's a spiral dancer. You're like, what's a spiral dancer if you've never played or read any of the comics? And then you go fight this thing, and I had no clue what it was. I thought it was just some experimental, werewolf or whatever, a human that had been turned into a werewolf by, the company or whatever, because it looked like some sort of mutated monster. It turns out when I looked it up, they were just a pack of werewolves that basically, sided with the worm and, basically went evil. The problem is I had to look that up. They don't explain that to people who, aren't into the series, have never played it before. It's almost like Destiny 1, where they told you nothing, or they told you to go, read some lore book on a website.
I think it's a black spiral dancer. He's...
Ludmilla, just hold on. Fuck! Ludmilla!
And talking about the story, you do get choices you can make during the storyline, but they make no difference on what happens in the actual story. The ending is absolutely horrible. You get two choices, and you get like a 30-second cutscene afterwards that is not fulfilling in any way at all. It's just bad. I want to say combat in this game is where it shines, but it really doesn't. It gets repetitive fairly quickly. On the harder difficulties, you dodge a little bit more. That's pretty much it. Your skill tree is kind of fun. I like it because it's not too overwhelming, but at the same time, it makes it feel like you're doing more than just heavy and quick attacks. My last complaint is the special edition of this game. So it's an extra $10 where it gives you the choice of different fur colors and different jacket colors when you're in human form. That in a spirit companion that's supposed to fight alongside of you in battle. At least I'm pretty sure that's what I read. It does not fight alongside you. It just floats around and gets in your way. So this was a horrible waste of $10 for me. Heck, the whole game was a waste of money to me. I wish I hadn't bought it. I wish I had waited till it was on sale. That's pretty much it for my complaints. Also, this really isn't one of my complaints, but I couldn't help but throw this in. This looks like a rip-off budget version of G-Man from Half-Life 2. It's like, what the heck even is this? So that's most of the negative things I have to say about the game. I don't go off a script, so I'm sure I'm probably forgetting something. You basically got a bad story. You got NPCs that have no facial animations and are incredibly stiff. You have bad camera angles, repetitive gameplay. Oh, and I forgot to mention you also have incredibly repetitive levels that pretty much all look the same, like the library level in Halo 1. Now, that all being said, there are a few positive things about the game. Yes, what's it called? The combat can get kind of repetitive, but it is kind of fun when your character, just like hulks out and just starts destroying everything. I think the model they use for the werewolf is very good. Most modern media, movies, and all that kind of stuff just don't have a good looking werewolf. They just have a guy that looks like he hasn't shaved in a week. Or if you look at the werewolf models in Skyrim or Elder Scrolls Online, they look like a bald mutant rat or something. It just does not look very good compared to this. So that's pretty much my take on the game. I would highly recommend not buying it unless you can find it on sale. It's just not worth the money unless you really are into werewolf type games. If you are, I would probably really recommend buying Skyrim and modding that, or even Elder Scrolls Online. Speaking of, I will be doing a review of Elder Scrolls Online Oblivion when it does come out here, and I think it's like 4 or 5 months, something like that. Otherwise, thanks again for watching my review, and see you guys next time.